Hello, party people. Today I'm going to be talking about how I crash and burned my Etsy store and my online presence. Some of it knowingly, some of it unknowingly, and what I would do if I were to start again from square one. This advice is mostly for Etsy stores. It is applicable to Shopify, but not always, because Shopify is not an algorithm, it's you bringing people. The Etsy algorithm is very much how much activity you're getting. Are you getting favorites? Are you getting sales? Are you getting reviews? Are you shipping things out? They're monitoring all those things to boost you in the listings. I'm at a point where I've realized that selling online, I enjoy it. I do it now, but I do it more on small marketplaces like Mercari. I don't have an Etsy at all anymore. I just shut down my Shopify like a couple weeks ago because at the end of the day, whenever you're selling things online, like you have to be doing it for you. And I got to a point where I just was not doing it for me. I was only doing it for the paycheck. And I know there are so many people that get online and they tell you, this is how I drop ship and this is how I do this and this is how I do that to make $10,000 in a month. At my highest, I was making $15,000 a month. I only did that for a couple months, but I got to a point in my last year of selling online where I was making a full-time income, and that is 100% possible. You can make a full-time income online, but it is not going to be fast. At a minimum, if you're doing it constantly, I would say it would give yourself 6 months to really see, is this working? So I wrote down some things about where I would from the very beginning if I were to start an online presence. If it's an Etsy, if it's a Shopify, there are other marketplaces now that are out there. I'm not super familiar with all of them, but this is just if I was selling things online, what I would specifically do. So from square one, if you're watching this video and you're thinking, I don't even know what I want to sell, or I have things that I like, I'm going to have a disclaimer before this, because if you have a hobby or something that you really enjoy, and you're trying to monetize it, that is extremely difficult to get back into it. So like if you like art or if you like making something and people have told you, oh, you should monetize this, keep in mind that you might burn out and never want to do it again. Because I can't even tell you the last thing I crocheted. Backstory of everything I've sold online. So I started selling in 2015. I had graduated college in 2014. I was working an office desk job, and I had some free time where I could just do things with my hands. If I would get all my work done, I had to occupy my position. So I would crochet things. And as I was crocheting more and more, I would have people that would tell me, oh, you should make this. Oh, you should make that. I would love this. And money was coming in. I was getting orders from people that say, I want a baby blanket. I want a baby hat. I want a baby outfit. And then I had people say, you should get on Etsy. I crocheted from 2015 to 2020, essentially. Like the middle of 2020 is when I stopped. One, because I physically could not do it anymore because my hands were like, what the fuck are you doing? I was making like $2,000 a month worth of baby items that I was hand making, crocheting, and I was doing onesies and baby hats that I was putting appliques on them. It got to a point where I was like, I hate this. I do not like doing this. I don't ever want to see a baby item ever again. I didn't like it to begin with, but because people were saying, oh, here's some money. And I started doing stickers. So I started drawing things, and then same thing with how I did with the crochet stuff. People were like, oh, you should make this. Oh, you should make that. And then I don't think anyone told me this, but I thought about, what if I made like bookmarks? So I started making bookmarks, and that's when I made the most money that I have ever made in my whole entire life, a month. In the last few months that I was on Etsy in 2023, I was making $15,000 a month, and I was able to pay off our car that we had just bought 6 months prior. I was able to buy things just because I wanted them, and that had never been something that I could do in my life ever before. But I got to a point where I was like, I don't care anymore. I'm not going to follow the rules. I'm just going to do whatever the heck I want. And it wasn't because of like pride. It was more, I hated it so much. I wanted to burn the candle as hot as possible to get as physically much as I could, where I just like, it wasn't sustainable. So right now it is September of 2024. In August of 2023, I started writing a book. I've always wanted to write, and that's after doing all the art stuff, doing the crochet stuff, and doing what people wanted. I have never been someone who turns away money. If someone showed up on my front porch and was like, hey, will you do this for $200? I would probably be like, sure. But now I've had to rewire my brain and realize that you can't sell your soul for money. I'm also in a position now because of like how hard I have worked, how hard my husband has worked as well, where I have a good support system financially. So that's where I'm kind of at right now. I'm making this video and I'm telling other people because uh, I do think there are a lot of opportunities where people are trying to sell you something that is not necessarily true. I know that there are people that are making money these ways, but I don't know if those ways are sustainable. Because if you think about it, if you want something that you want to be doing 5 years, 10 years down the road, you really have to put in the time at the very beginning to build up what is it you want from an Etsy store, any store online. These are some tips that I would do if I was starting from day one, how to healthfully, is that a word? How to balance your life where you're making good money, but not a get rich quick scheme whatsoever. So now we're at the part where I'm going to give you advice and you can listen to it or you cannot. You need to mentally in your mind have a timeline of how long you want to put into something, because I think we assume the second we post something on Etsy or online, just people are going to come to us. You either have to have some type of release dates, like where if you have a social media already that you're kind of posting these things on, where you have a drop, you need to build up to it, because the first time you post things, it might be a week, it might be 2 months, it might be a certain amount of time before you start making any sales, because you have to build up momentum. The way the Etsy algorithm works, this isn't the way it is with Shopify, but the way the Etsy algorithm works is if you're selling more and you're shipping more, they're going to boost you more because they're saying, okay, this person is actively shipping things out, selling things, they're getting reviews. The more activity that's on your account, the more they're going to boost you. Or on a piece of paper, like I'm in school. First and foremost, have the picture in your mind of how long you're going to see if this is going to be successful. Some people might take up to a year. It's all about time. The more time you put into it, the more you're going to get out of it. But if you just want a part-time income and you want to build it up to a full-time income, you have to put time into it to get that full-time income. It's not a 1 second or a do this or do that. Even if you go viral, especially on Etsy, so if you make a TikTok of your items, they will see that increase of traffic if you have a huge boom in traffic, and they will throttle your payments. It is something that you have to build up to, especially if you open a new account, they will put a hold on your funds. It's called a reserve. So they keep this reserve amount. I don't really know how it's calculated. I just remember that for 90 days when I first opened my store, I opened 2 stores, but my second store that I opened, because when I first opened, they didn't have this reserve. But for my second store, they had it for 90 days. And I believe it was even further than 90 days because I did the math and I had to contact them and be like, hey, it's been past 90 days. Why is this reserve still here? So anyway, you're not going to get all your money right away. So number one is going to be the product. What do you want to make? If you right now are like, I want an Etsy store, I want to sell things online, and you don't even know what you want to sell, think about your hobbies and what is it that you make that could be sold. For me, it was crocheted items, stickers, bookmarks, stationery type items. If you have like pottery or things, you have to build what you want your products to be. So either you're creating products, like what's the word? The word I'm looking for. Prototypes. If you might have a prototype so you can take pictures of it, everything I did was always made to order because I didn't want to front the cost of items that I didn't know if they would sell or not. If there were things that consistently sold, then I would pre-make a bunch of them. I would back stock it. You will find new products as you go because you will feel as you're going through your products what people like, what people want more of, and you might come up with new ideas. Mine was always evolving on what I wanted to offer. You need to have like a set number of products. I don't know if I would necessarily say like there's a set number that you can do. People like to browse. The more products you have on your store, the more people will be able to look at the things that you sell and then more likely to buy because something that they see they will want. And it's good to offer consistency depending on what your brand is, like your brand identity, and that's a whole other thing. But people like something that's familiar. If say you have a character that you're putting on a ceramic or a cup, and then you have a sticker of that same thing, like that's fine. But I don't know if I would offer like bridal party gifts and say dog collars on the same thing. Your search results are not going to be the same. You're not going to be getting the same audience because typically when people are going on Etsy, they're looking for one specific thing. I've never done this before where I have multiple different items on a store where they're from different niches, but personally, I've always tried to stay in one item. That's why I had 2 stores. I had my crochet store and then I had my sticker store to start. And then once I didn't wanna do crochet stuff anymore, I moved all my sticker stuff to my primary store. So, you can do that. If you started something and you wanna change it into something else as you go, that is fine too. It's not gonna mess up long term the algorithm, or you just have to rebuild up those searches and that traction with those new items. So, gotta figure out what you wanna sell. I would set maybe 10 items, or if you have something that you can do variations of, you can do the variations as individual listings just to build out your store. But as your store gets bigger, you can put, if there's variations for the same item, you can do drop down menus where you can say this one item, but there's different colors or different patterns. Or, but when you're first starting, maybe just so you have more listings. For Etsy, it does cost. Just putting a listing together is not going to put you on the first page. I don't think that's possible. Anytime I got on first page, it was because I sold a lot of it. Again, what do I want to sell? How much of it am I going to sell? And how much is it going to cost me to make it? You don't want to start making a store where you have no money to start it and you put on the credit card all the expenses thinking I'll be able to pay this back in a month. I'll be able to buy all this stuff to make these items and I can just pay it back, within a month or something. If that's not realistic, if it's stuff that you already have, if you want to do little batches at a time, do what is physically feasible for you to purchase and do at that time. I don't think it's a good idea to drop like $1,000 that you don't have making a bunch of items. So price out how much it will cost, because you also have to consider if you're having a Shopify, it's going to be how much the website costs and monthly fees. And on Etsy, it costs for every single listing. So it costs 20 cents. And that racks up after a while. Even though you're like, oh, it's 20 cents, it's 20 cents. Anytime you renew a listing to bump it up in the search results, that's another 20 cents. So the cost is another, I would still say, in the realm of step one, is you want to figure out, what do you want to sell? How much of it do I want to sell? What is going to be the cost to start it? You're also going to be looking at how much it costs to sell it. So those are, I would say, some things that you really have to think about. And I would say this video is going to be mostly about what are the things you need to think about the most, because there are so many other videos that say steps of what you need to do. I'm not really going to be telling you the steps. I'm more saying these are the key important parts of what I think it takes to make a successful store. Now that you've done the initial research, we call that the research and development phase, the R&D phase. Now that you've done that, let's talk about researching where it belongs in the universe of the internet. You have your products, you're going to be doing keyword research to figure out where your product fits within everything else. The free way to do this is to start typing in what your item is. So say you're selling 14 karat earrings, you're going to type in 14 karat and start see what Etsy is already populating. That is going to be the most commonly used search terms. Then if you type in 14 karat earrings, you will start seeing 14 karat earrings, wedding gift, for girlfriend, for birthday. All these different words are going to be popping up that are the most searched words on Etsy. If you want to not even talk about the item, like 14 karat earring, you can type in gifts for girlfriend and see in that scenario what is popping up for gifts for girlfriend, because those are going to be the same things if you're selling your earrings that are gifts for girlfriend. That's going to be stuff that is going to be competing as in the same category. That's a free way to just see what is popping up whenever you're searching, what is popping up whenever you're typing in words that would get your product found. And what I would always do as well, once I really got all my keywords, because you want to use 13 keywords in your tags. You want to use those tags also in your title. You don't want to do too much of the same stuff, but you want the computer, the robots, to look and say, okay, this is the title, this is in the tag, this is in the description. What I would do, which is I guess like an easy way to do it, I just copied my title and pasted it at the end of my description box, because I didn't have to try and think about where it would go in the sentences of my descriptions. Make sure you've really looked into your keywords and done research. You can do free research, like I said, by searching in the Etsy search bar, or you can pay for places like eRank. They will let you look up what your biggest competitors' tags and keywords are and their selling statistics and all these things. That's also if you have the money to do this, I think it's $10 a month, but if you have the money to pay for a subscription on eRank when you're first starting to kind of research what are the things that are selling the most on Etsy and where you would fit in, or like what your dream story is or whatever it is, when you're figuring out what you want to do, looking up keywords is another way that you can figure that out. Your items, how they fit into everything. So like I said with the earrings, like how do earrings fit into Etsy? Is it saturated where you don't want to do it at all? Do you want to do some niche thing that's just up and coming? The product you're making, who is this going to go to? Who is buying this for who? Who's using it? You can go on eRank. It will give you lots of suggestions about what other people are using, and you can do some research. You can type in keywords and like track them and see how those keywords perform. A third thing that I thought was really important for your product to stand out was photos and descriptions. If you take a dark iPhone photo and your hand is like moving and you're just trying to get your pictures, that's not going to perform very well. You need something that is well lit. I got a white IKEA side table that I would just take outside with me, and I would put my products on that and take photos of that, like when it was sunny outside. Or if I was standing outside by the grass, I would just kind of hold it out in front of the grass because like the grass is vibrant. People want colors. They want neutral backgrounds. Some people will stylize a lot of stuff. I was not skilled at the style design type. I've used my flooring a lot. If the sun is coming through the window, I'll put it on my flooring. It's a neutral background. You also want to try and get videos. All I did for videos, I wasn't posing them. It wasn't a commercial. I just kind of moved my camera around, or I held the item. So there was physical movement. You saw my hand for scale about how big the item was. It's good that you can scale items. If you get things that are common, like when I did bookmarks, I would put the item in a book. So it gives people an idea, well, this is how big this bookmark is because this is what it looks like in this typical size book. I think it was like 5x8. Size book. Another part, which I already talked about a little, descriptions. How I did descriptions was I itemized the most important information. So you want to think, how do I need to describe to my customers what this is? I did bullet points where I would put, for a sticker, for example, I'd put waterproof, fade resistant, descriptive words that talked about the product. And then I would write a sentence, this blah, blah, blah is the perfect gift for your best friend, mom, sister, because I did more girlier. You don't want to have AI just generate the descriptions because I think people notice when those are done. It gets those keywords in. Now that you're talking about photos, we talked about descriptions, like what our items are, how we're going to photograph them. Number 4 is marketing the item to start. How am I going to start getting sales? Posting on social media. I know people hate doing it, but watch and see what other people are doing. Find almost like a wish list of accounts that you like. Don't do the exact same thing, but see what they're putting out, what sounds they're using for trends, and watch what they're doing, how they're marketing their products. A lot of it is fast transitions. The TikTok app CapCut, if you just throw in photos, if you just throw in videos, and honestly, a lot of people just like to hear you talk. If you make a video of the process of you making the item, like today I'm going to be making bookmarks, or today I had a customer that was clear out. People like to hear stories and conversations. So if you want to talk and if you have a phone, it's not difficult to take videos of what you're doing and describe it. I am literally the most awkward person ever. Thank God that videos can be edited before they're put on the internet, because you'd see me drinking water and clearing my throat and popping my knuckles. You can edit videos. So marketing is really going to be doing things on social media, just showing people the product is out there, using hashtags that people are using to find similar products. And like I said, make like a wish list of what other people are doing that's successful for them, because you don't want to copy them, but you also can kind of see like, oh, this is how often they're posting. This is the type of stuff that they're posting. Is it humorous? Really just think, how would I do this? Or if I was trying to be unique, because it takes a lot of thinking time. I know in the day and age that we live in, thinking sucks, and coming up with finding inspiration to do things is really, really difficult, because you are fighting with all these other people that you're trying to find space on the internet. You're trying to find your space, but I genuinely believe there's space for everyone on the internet. Just don't give up. I know it's frustrating. Rome wasn't built in a day, as they say. But the best advice, and I know that I've said this to my friends, and they're probably like, you're so weird. For whatever reason, I saw this guy in a YouTube video once. Sorry, I don't remember because this was probably 5 years ago, but I know it was a guy. And he was talking about specifically artists. How do you stay motivated? What keeps you driving forward? And he was saying that if you are trying to get multiple things done at once, if you're trying to start a jewelry business and a soap business, and you're trying to do this and that, like if you're trying to do all these different things, like your time is going to be stretched 5 different ways. You have to put, when you're building a house, you have to put one brick after the other into one house. You can't be putting a brick over here, a brick over here, a brick over here, a brick over here. You have to stay consistent and just keep doing it. There are times, because I watch Shark Tank and I know Mark Cuban, he says, ideas are a dime a dozen. It's all about execution. That is 100% true. Sticking with it is so difficult. But if you do it, you will find a pocket for yourself. And if you just keep posting and keep it up, you can do it, because eventually people will notice you. It'll be slow. It'll be a trickle. And then maybe the floodgates will open and then you'll have a job, which would be amazing. But a lot of it is just sticking with it and adapting. I know so many people post step-by-step how-tos, how to exactly do something. I don't think that that is possible. There are so many different things that you have to do as a creator to try and adapt and stand out and stuff. But the best thing is just keep going, try things. Failing is totally fine. If you start an Etsy store and it fails, you can try again. There's not one specific way to do anything. I could tell you, this is all the things that I did. And I strongly feel like a lot of the things that I said, they will help guide you in the right direction. But you have to put in the work at the end of the day. There's no perfect step-by-step road atlas of if you do these exact things, you'll be successful. There's a pretty high likelihood if you do some of the things, you'll be successful, but it's never 100%. Your path is not someone else's path. Anyway, I'm going to end this video. If you have any specific questions, that kind of helps me, because if I see specific questions that people have, what should I be doing? That helps me, because in my mind, I put on a hat of I'm you. And what would I do if I was in this person's position? And then I can tell you what I would specifically suggest. This was my 4 general things that you need to think about before starting an Etsy store. And as you're working on your Etsy store, these are all early stages. When you're later on in your store is doing certain things, I can talk about those if that's something that you're interested in. But I guess tell me what you're interested in hearing about. I love helping people. I love sharing information. I'm going to have a bunch of different things that I talk about just because I like talking about a bunch of things. I got to do my, what is it, thumbnail? I gotta do my thumbnail picture.